So welcome to Business Fusion at the Business Centre. So for those that I haven't met, my name is Brooke and I'm the Education and Experience Manager here and been with the team for about 11 years. We're lucky enough to have quite a few of the crew here tonight, so I'm going to be really annoying and call you out. So Paulina up the back there. And we have Trish and Ben. And, I mean, Lloyd doesn't work here, but he should. And then we have Steve and Georgia and Kristen up the back. Pete and his lovely wife Jill, who we just include all the time. Yep. That's it. Okay. So I'd like to acknowledge that we're taking part in an activity and filming on Awabakal country this evening. So the Business Centre's been around for more than 36 years, for those that don't know. We've been doing advisory, workshops, courses, training, connections, and now this Business Fusion event. So we wanted to create an event where business owners got to carve out some time to explore different business topics, got to leave their business at home and just have a bit of a think and a talk to other business owners, with the hope that they grew individually and then therefore that flows into our community, of course. So we've covered different topics in this Fusion series. We've talked about the circular economy and we've talked about the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And that led us on to tonight's topic, authenticity. Next month, we're doing an ethical dilemma debate, which is going to be a whole lot of fun. And then we've just got further topics that just roll out. There's a bit of a story to it, which you hear throughout each event. Yeah. So tonight we're talking authenticity with Jamie Lewis. Hello.
Hey, yeah. G'day.
And then we're going to engage in what's called a reciprocity circle. Yes, it sounds like a velociraptor circle, but it's a little bit different to that. And we'll touch more on that after our chat today. So we're filming tonight, but just wanted to share with you all that you guys aren't being filmed. We're just filming content that we then share with people that can't be here tonight. So welcome to this chat on authenticity and its relationship to business. And why this topic? As we mentioned, we've done talks on circular economy and sustainable development goals, and they're two really important things. And people can make a difference in the world and also through their business, make a difference to their business too. So these concepts can actually be adopted into a business in a shallow, deep way. They can be used as a shiny thing that gets marketed, but not demonstrated and not really lived or embodied as a value. So we want to bring up authenticity at this point in time, just to start that really honest conversation. So every day, our team of amazing business advisors talk to intenders, startups, established businesses about values, motivational drivers, their purpose for starting a business. And these are super important. But again, these are topics that often get used to directly make money and sell in their business and aren't embodied and lived in terms of values and demonstrating that. So I guess in a way, we just want people to have a think about what authenticity means to them and in their business itself. So do you think authenticity has become fetishised in the business world as a term? And has it become part of what we call at the Business Centre buzzword bingo? Is it another hashtag pivot, passion, side hustle? Like, oh, those terms, right? So what we want to do is take a little bit of a deep dive into what authenticity means and the origins of the word. So it's going to be a bit of a hashtag journey. And we'll go down a rabbit hole, yeah. But what I'd like is anyone in the audience, would you like to share your definition of authenticity or what that means to you? Yeah.
It's being real to me, like being the real, like if you are presenting the real you, then you're being authentic.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else?
Prize for being first person to answer too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You win something over there. Lloyd?
Yeah, just sort of on that theme, I think being genuine in your workplace or whatever, like the same way you are outside of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Seems to be a bit of an expectation sometimes that you put on more of a professional manner,
Yes.
which
Yeah, the internal and external aligning being the same.
Yeah, or you have your work persona and your home persona and that kind of thing. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. So the Cambridge Dictionary definition is, if something is authentic, it is real, true, or what people say it is. So I felt like it started strong, but then the what people say it is kind of just got a bit icky. And it's hard to articulate why this topic is such a hot one at the Business Centre, one we're passionate about. Oh, hashtag passionate.
Stop it, stop.
I can't stop. Oh, sorry. And I'm late. So sometimes people really delve into authenticity around leadership in particular and around marketing, but we want to talk about it instead of as a value, as a demonstrated behaviour, something a little bit different. Everybody has different meaning to words. So this is a rabbit hole we're going to sort of go down. It's a philosophical history of the word authenticity. So you'll have to just go with me on this. It'll make sense in the end, I promise. And it's also my interpretation of some great thinkers and great philosophers. So it's oversimplified most likely. This is all my disclaimer here. About me interpreting. So in 340 BC, Aristotle really started talking about authenticity and really said it was about a virtuous person who does virtuous things for themselves. So they do not do anything to please a crowd. It's about virtuous to yourself. It's about acting independently and questioning your own motives. So I thought, okay, yeah, that sounds about right. It's interesting. And then in 400 AD, St. Augustine, a Christian philosopher, sort of built on that, but with a religious viewpoint. So in his words, are you acting on your own behalf when you're being authentic, or is it through the eyes of others? So are you doing what is authentic and right in the eyes of God? So he linked in the conversation authenticity to being right in the eyes of God. So if you were inauthentic, yeah, you know, where you land on that. And then in the 1840s, there was a Danish philosopher, Kierkegaard, I struggle with that name, known as the grandfather of existentialism. So he was all about standing out against the crowd, and he said authentic living was basically just pushing against society and its norms. And if you were in a socially acceptable sort of way of life, that was a negative thing. That was inauthentic. That made me start thinking about the line of authenticity and how that butts up against morality and how it can conflict with how you work in business and how your business reputation comes into play, whether you're being authentic or not. So then...
I'm intrigued.
We're in the rabbit hole.
Yeah, we're well in it. Yeah.
So then in the 1920s, Heidegger was a philosopher that released his own fundamental text about owning one's own life. So it was all about that agency as the start of that conversation. And he said that questionable behaviour and social norms be damned. So there's this really incredible history of this word that's in rebellion and freedom. You know, it's a really strong word, history. So you do you might be simplifying Heidegger a bit, but that's how I think of him. And his story gets super duper interesting because it brings up the authenticity and morality intersection. So he was a champion of independent thinking, and then it came out that he was a Nazi. So his authentic self, you know, got down with some pretty, you know, alarming people doing alarming things. So it brings up that conversation. You living your authentic life, how does that actually impact with society that you're in? And in our case, the business world, etc., etc. And then in the 1940s, Jean-Paul Sartre built on Heidegger's theories, and he really delved into that freedom at its core of authenticity. He was married to Simone de Beauvoir. Imagine their dinner table conversations, right? These two minds just chatting over mashed potatoes. Seems interesting. So she was talking more about, yes, it's interesting, it aligns with a value, but authenticity needs to be a demonstrated behaviour, not just a thought or a value. So that landed us again in the 1940s with a psychoanalysis called Winnicott. Has anyone heard of Winnicott? He's a pretty interesting character. So he explored this sentence, which I'm going to read word for word. The fixation on authenticity as a fetishizing of uniqueness in a Western capitalist world. Right? You just go, okay, he had a lot to think that day. I sure can. The fixation on authenticity as a fetishizing of uniqueness in a Western capitalist world. So he was just like, why do people in Western worlds? Yes, 100%. So the word authenticity has such an interesting story behind it and history behind it. And I guess that's why we wanted to bring up using it in an offhand or throwaway manner. And we want to talk about how that intersects with business and in particular marketing and leadership of other people. So quite often in the business environment, authenticity is linked to trust, which is something obviously super important when you're leading people or selling to people. And if marketing is evidence that you are who you say you are, how real is your business, your values, what you're doing every day in business? So now it's time to meet our delightful speaker, Jamie
I can't
Lewis.
follow any of those philosophers, but I'll give it a crack. Let's see how we go.
Just listen to the You Do You one.
Yeah, I made a note on that. That's good, yeah.
So Jamie Lewis is the creative director of Oots, or Out of the Square Media, here in Newcastle. He's also a writer, an incredible creative writer, a filmmaker, and an all-round champion.
I'll take all those. Thanks very much. That's
Welcome.
Great. Yeah. Let's quit while we're ahead. Thanks,
Okay.
everyone. Bye. See you. Yeah.
So tell us a bit about you and why you think we invited you to come and chat tonight.
Yeah, great question. So I'm a co-creative director. I won't take full credit for it at Out of the Square. I come from a video production and writing background. And Out of the Square, the business I work for is based in Newcastle and just turning 25 this year, which is a great feat. I love filmmaking and writing. A lot of my personal filmmaking writing is what a friend described as wonderfully wrong. And I think that's a good description of what I like to do outside of work as well, in terms of the tone of what I write.
Yep.
Why am I speaking? I think it's a good question. I started in the mid-90s in Adland, as I called it back then. And back then, everything was just one-way messages. All marketers did was just push, push, push. Conversations did not exist, and they were petrified at the thought of a customer being able to communicate back with them or question their ways. Whereas now I think it's wonderful, having seen that it is really largely all about conversations and two-way conversations with customers, and having platforms, which we have now on this, where that actually happens. And we're seeing, the death of one-way conversation media as well. Television stations, radio, newspapers, we're just seeing the collapse of that and the rise of social media as well, which is, I think, just a natural expansion of a phone, actually, of a mobile phone as well. I'm intrigued by talking about this and seeing what people think as well. And
you thought it was weird that we asked you. Like, why me?
Yeah, why me?
Brooke?
And actually, we
Why
were chatting
me?
with Luke before, as marketers, we're always like, are we the best people to talk about authenticity?
No, you're the exact right people to talk to
Yeah,
about it, particularly with what you've seen over the years and how it's evolved.
Absolutely.
And I know you are a rebel at heart that really does value freedom.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the core of the word, right?
Want. Yeah, and we love to help people achieve their dreams, really, in what we do. And I think it's about helping goals happen.
Yeah.
And that's the gift of good, authentic marketing now, or maybe not authentic marketing, as we'll discuss.
Yeah.
Cool.
So what's your definition of authenticity?
Well, the You Do You was interesting, and it was interesting when it goes from a discussion internally to action. Yeah. And I do believe it's when your mental beliefs or your beliefs and your actions align, that's when you're being authentic. Because we hear a lot of Muppet talk, which I think we saw in the election, the result of discussion that does not relate to any belief that action will happen. Yeah. It feels inauthentic. So to me it is, and it's got to come through in physicalising your intentions. Yeah. And if they're not physicalised, then it's really just gibber to me. Yeah, so yeah, we've all had a lot of lip service, I think, but action speaks louder than everything else.
100%. Yep. So do you recall a time when authenticity was like the most important thing in the world?
Oh, man, that's a great one. Oh, definitely when I made my own films and writing and just being true to what I wanted to make. And you can feel it in yourself when you're doing your own business and you're being true to yourself. There's this other layer of energy. As soon as you're doing stuff that doesn't feel right, you feel yourself getting dragged down, or it's like someone's behind you just tugging you back and like, fuck off, let me. Oh, sorry, I'll swear a lot. I do apologise, but it means I'm really happy about what I'm saying, so I apologise.
And you're being
in advance.
authentic.
I'm being authentic. Yeah, fucking authentic. So yeah, sorry. So I think for my own stuff, but when I first started in advertising, I was so excited by what we were doing, but I slowly realised we're probably not being authentic in much that we were doing. And also a lot of the places I worked didn't really have a goal. They didn't really stand for anything apart from more billings, more revenue, and do that job for that much and charge them this much for that. Yeah. Whereas when I got to Oots, I think kudos to our boss Marty. He said about going, what is it we want to stand for? And for a lot of agencies, we want to be the best at this sort of marketing, etc. Marty's goal was, what if our purpose is to help Newcastle and the Hunter lift? To put Newcastle and the Hunter on the map, to help businesses in our own way lift. And it was a really big head shift for a lot of us, because it's like, what does that mean when we do it? But that was good because it gave us all a combined kind of goal and purpose. And it also produced these are what we call our values, but they're also our kind of guiding light as well. And when we employ people or look at salary reviews, staff rewards, they're actually all based on values as opposed to, gee, that person's great, they worked 20 hours yesterday and stayed here till midnight. Like, that's not one of our values, fuck that off. Instead, did they do one of these things? I think we'll talk about them later, or we can talk more about them.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to talk about them later.
Yeah, but they're good because even
anything that starts with, did you fart in the elevator?
Yeah, okay. Well, should we talk about
Let's
the values
do
now?
it.
Yeah. So we'll start at the top, own that shit, which is a great one, which is really, be proud of what you do. If you do a fart in the elevator, don't hide, admit it, which is also it's about taking ownership of a project and pushing it and running with it. Like even AJ, who's doing our recording here, when we spoke about doing the split here, there were a few technical problems we had to solve, and AJ's straight onto it. No, this if we do these things. So that's a great one, and we really like that thing because it is about we've got this idea to how to help Newcastle. Let's push it and push it and push it and get the right people on board. So we'll go around this way. Stop, collaborate, and listen. It kind of explains itself, but really it's about, and it's a bit of a contradiction to own that shit. This is about take a step back and stop. And who do we need to make this happen? Who do we work with, not just internally, but externally as well, to make things work? And also the collaborate and listen is a big one. Just get some other voices. And so we love the initial rush of an idea, but then a bit like the business centre, who do you bring in to really make that happen? Up the ante, so that's great. We've done a fantastic job. That's good. But then we'll say, okay, just pretend that's only 50% baked. We think it's wonderful, but let's just pretend it's only 50. What is next? What makes it better? What helps it grow? What's the next thing? So that's a great one. We hate hearing people go, that's kind of what we expected from you. It's like, oh no, we've not upped the ante on that. And laugh, play, and inspire. The last one. We all remember we're human. Marty's very aware too that a third of our day, every day, is in this company pretty much. So you've got to make it fun, otherwise what's the point? So we're just making sure that we enjoy it and that we openly enjoy it as well, and we can share jokes and all that sort of stuff. So they're our values, and then we kind of, when we come to reviewing what we're doing, it's based on a numerical scale of what have we done here, and the staff have to give examples in those things of what they've done. So it's kind of cool.
It'd be really interesting conversations.
It is.
So do you recall a time when it sort of ebbed and flowed throughout your business life, have you recognised there's been times when you've gone, wow, I really feel authentic in what I'm doing, and other times where you just say,
yuck, yeah. There is that, and I think it's the nature sometime of in marketing when you're dealing with lots of different clients. I guess it's the same with any business and your customers. You've got those who are completely part of your tribe as such, and
hashtag
tribe. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for taking me on this journey with my tribe hashtags. And then those that aren't, and it is a question of, if we work with this person, that will help bolster other things that will give us more revenue. So do we do it, but are we being true to ourselves? And then, or do we see a glimmer that they might become, we might hold similar values, so should we not say no yet and then see how it rolls and whatnot? In the earlier days, I felt a lot more discord with being authentic and doing stuff. And,
knowing what that line is too.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And especially when you, like any business, when you get caught up in the buzz of it, it's not stopping to review and go, hang on, is this actually what I'm about or anything like that? It's not like any relationship, isn't it? You can get caught up in it and then go, hang on, what was I thinking?
Yeah, what am I doing here?
We're so wrong for each other. Yeah, or something. Yeah.
It's interesting because talking about that, having agency over who you work with, I remember a time when a client came to the business centre who wanted to start a business, and it wasn't ethical. It was just legal. And I was just going, like that. Yeah. So I went to Steve and just said, I'm really uncomfortable with this. Like, this is the line for me. I don't want to work with this person.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It was actually Steve's side hustle, wasn't
That's
it?
right. Yeah. It was how to stay on a bike.
Yeah. Cha-ching.
It was that, and working somewhere that said, if you don't feel like you can do this because it's an ethical conundrum, just back away. It was a pretty cool moment.
Yeah, and I have hats off again to Marty. He's actually seen that tension happen, and he has asked clients to actually look. We'll help find another fit, but it's not the right fit,
for us,
which is really lovely as a staff member. You go, okay, we are
stand
actually
for
living this.
something.
Yeah, we are living these values, which is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So when did you work out that authenticity and marketing was sort of becoming a thing?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. It probably comes back to the thing earlier about in the 90s when it was all push. And then this notion of brand really started developing. And it's like, oh, hang on, there's this concept that you actually stand for something. And then with that, as soon as there's a concept of belief in something, there's then an authenticity towards that or not.
Yeah.
So I think that's when it really started developing, once businesses would articulate a why, and then we'd help businesses articulate a why. A bit like what you do here, I guess. It's what is that purpose? And then you can very easily work out if it's authentic or not.
Yeah.
And it's so different, isn't it? You know, when you're a small operator, a sole operator, 1 or 2 staff, you can really hold on to what you stand for. As soon as you, which is why we developed this for 20-something staff, what is our little internal mantras and hymn sheet that we're all singing off that lets us be authentic. So, So I think that was it. Definitely once brand started coming into play. Yeah.
So have you ever been asked to be authentic to an organisation's values that obviously weren't yours?
Yeah. Yes. I remember at a different workplace, they had a cosmetic surgeon and they wanted this really kind of, I thought it was a bit brutal campaign. It just didn't sit with me at all because it was hanging on body shaming and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just like, no, I'm not going to do this one. And they kept trying to force me into it, but it was like, no. And then by luck, I was able to busy myself in other stuff and just fuck them off. But the agency still did it. And I just was like, it just was not. It just wasn't pleasant, you know. So it was, and not that it was. It just didn't sit with me. That's all. Others kind of saw a value in it, but I just didn't at all. Yeah.
So it was still authentic for that organisation to work with that client, just not you personally.
I don't know if it was authentic ever. I just think they were happy to do it for
money.
To the money.
Yep.
Yeah, to be honest, unfortunately, yeah.
Brass
yeah.
tacks.
Yeah, I'm sure you could compromise an authenticity somehow, but I didn't buy it.
Yeah,
at all.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
That was probably the biggest one. I've had to work with a few politicians as well at other places in my time, and they're always fun because they're just goofy people to work with. But again, I didn't. I just worked with them because I found it so intriguing from my human side as a writer, and I love writing crime fiction, so I kept seeing potential bad stories. So I would hang around. They thought I was helping them, but I was going, "Oh, I've got so much juice here. This is awesome." So
inspiration.
I don't know where that sits on the ethics spectrum, but it was great
I think it
for
sits
me.
more in curiosity.
Yeah,
also.
absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I did know a friend who was asked by a brothel to do stuff, and he had a real conundrum on. It was actually interior design work, and but in the end he ended up doing it. So, but he did speak a lot about the conundrum of that.
Yeah.
That's
interesting.
That's another couple of wines conversation, I think. But yeah.
Absolutely. So here's one for you. Do you believe that being authentic in business should allow people to demonstrate bad behaviour and not expect blowback?
Yeah, well, this is interesting, isn't it? If we're in a free place where you can be whoever you want, if you do you, then yes, but you've got to expect, especially in a cancel culture world, especially, and where social media is at the high, you've got to expect blowback. But the thing is, does that matter or not if you're talking purely to your tribe? A great example is probably the election again, where in some ways you could say Scott Morrison was incredibly authentic. It was just that authenticity nobody really wanted, or not a lot of people wanted. And I'm not deeply
enough.
into politics either, but he was his genuine. Well, we think that seemed to be him, which just pissed off so many people as well. But likewise in business, if you've got an opinion but your tribe are behind you in that, then absolutely it's okay to do. And you'll cop flack, but if you're doing what's right for you and you've still got your dedicated base of customers which support you, then is that okay? There's, I think, a problem where we've all got to be loved or liked, where, if your goal, if your authenticity as a business person is to be an agitator, then you'll naturally only have a smaller cluster of people by nature about you, but maybe that's okay. If you've got your 1,000 tribe members that can support your business regularly, then is that fine, And do you deflect your negativity back into positivity that reinforces what you stand for, And lots of brands do that very cleverly, where it's rather than trying to talk to many people, you just reinforce what your customers want to hear. And sometimes that means insulting other points of views, but that's what those people may want to hear.
I follow this guy on social media. He's a farmer in the States and he calls himself the pissed off farmer. And all he does is get really cranky about everything to do with farming. And it's so hilarious to me because I really resonate with that feeling of when you go outside and, you sink to your knees in mud, and he's just nothing sort of positive about him. You just sort of go, okay.
Whinge reviews have always been huge. It's absolutely massive. So,
So in light of tonight's conversation, can you sort of put your thoughts on brand authenticity together? So
brand authenticity,
and how authenticity being such a strong and important word and how it has really been leveraged in that branding space.
Yeah, and I guess it's really, when you talk about a company's brand and it's what its heart is and what it stands for, then it's those actions to make it all. The company's actions have to replicate what that is, in my view. And again, that can only come through their actions and what they're doing. And there's a slight narcissism, I guess, in a way, that you've got to tell people at some point. Well, you don't have to, but marketing's job is to tell people. So it's about how you then tell people what you're doing and how that is a reflection of what you are and what you stand for. And, there's some good and bad examples of that all about the place. But I think for small, medium business, social media is the absolute perfect platform now, because of cost effectiveness, but also because you're no longer concerned with a certain geography now, thanks to social media, you can find your niche tribe everywhere as an online business. And that's where, sharing what you're doing authentically allows you to do for the first time ever in history, thanks to social media. You can find a tribe globally, which was almost impossible before. Have I digressed from the answer? We're talking brand. Sorry, brand and authenticity.
You're okay.
Yeah.
I was actually just thinking, surely you in your line of work have met people in your place of work that were really left of centre and they were behaving authentically to themselves, and how that plays out in a workplace. It can be really interesting, even as the business centre teams grow and we get more different personalities in. And
and it is weird because if you've got a set of values, and just say we don't employ someone because we don't think have we done a new ism? What kind of ism is it? It's not sexism or racism or anything. It's valuism. And is that right or wrong? Can someone still look? I'm a great technical operator, I'm a phenomenal designer, just let me do my stuff. But you know what, I don't want to partake in any of that. So, I'm not sure where that actually sits in the scheme of things. We as a team kind of want them to have that though, because there's this other sense of us as a crew who have to work together. So you kind of want to share values, and especially when we're front facing with clients, you want to know we're all kind of singing from the same hymn sheet.
It is definitely that in front of clients and that consistency side of it. But there's this part of me, I just love it when someone's part of the team and their behaviour is so
different, and it's important.
It's quite off-putting in a way.
It's so important to have those different voices and opinions. Otherwise, you're just vanillarising, and you're going to get same answers, which you see again and again. No one here's a real estate agent, are they? Has anyone
don't hate on the real estate.
I don't want to hate on them, but there's this new mould of real estate agent. This look, and it's like, what's that? I missed that cookie cutter, but that's it's interesting. I don't know why. I'm not hating on real estate.
I know you're not, Joe.
Oh, maybe. No.
Let me check it with myself.
Am I being authentic now? Yeah,
it is. So, Lloyd.
Can I just ask a couple of things? The first point is just on what you were touching on before, in terms of if someone doesn't align with your values, is it okay to bring them into the organisation? What we've found is, this is a bit of a generalisation here, but if they're not aligned with our values, we see them as, generally speaking, a dickhead. And we've got no dickhead policy. And so we find that really works well for us, because if we find if someone's not aligned with our values, comes into the organisation, then that can affect how things are for everyone. So, I don't know. But
takes that
I
line
agree,
back
Lloyd.
to behaviour.
I do agree. And you can feel it, when people are all singing from the same bars and the energy's there, and there's
just
not,
Then, we often say, like, would you go for a coffee with this person, would you go for a drink? And it's okay, like, if they're thinking outside the square, doing things in a different way, we embrace that. But at the end of the day, if they're a dickhead, you can't train someone not to be a dickhead.
It's interesting.
You can train to do anything else. So you're a good person. But the other thing I was going to say was, you were talking about the trend towards businesses and authenticity, or at least claiming they're authentic. Do you think there's also a trend, like I see a trend going the other way as well, in terms of celebrating fake it till you make it? So you've probably heard of or seen some of the shows that have been out at the moment, like Fire Festival, WeWork. Anna, I can't remember her last name, but there's there's a lot of people who, and they actually might be genuinely authentic to themselves, because I think they're all like sociopaths. But they are being celebrated in the fact that
No, it's so true.
Like in a lot of ways, like they're celebrating the fact that they are faking it. They're manipulating a lot of people to align with what they're thinking.
Or their own end goals.
Their own end goals, which is all about them. So they're being authentic to themselves. But you're talking about is someone being authentic to themselves? How does that align with actual morals and the rest of society? So I can kind of see a bit of a conflict at the moment between like people sort of embracing that, especially on social media platforms, and they're faking it so they and justifying their actions through that.
The Kardashians have a lot to answer for.
But there is a lot of that. Absolutely, whenever there's fame or whatever, the Fire Festival was phenomenal. It's just mind-blowing to see that phenomenon. And there'll be more and more of that because it's almost the yin and the yang, isn't it? There's authenticity, and then if everyone wants that, well, I'm going to pretend to be authentic and try and make a mozza on the side, which I agree is. And now we're just seeing it in a different light. You know, it's always been there, hasn't it? I think, and now it's just hang on. We've got more tools and some cleverer social platform tools to try and do it on. Yeah,
the pizzazz.
Yeah, and there's always it's like with the influencers. There was the slacker influencer movement as well, which was kind of the anti-influencer, where they just I think there'll always be the opposite, but. It's the problem for me is when people are getting sucked into it, but that's always been the case, hasn't it? Yeah. And we're in such a largely unregulated platform. You know, I guess that's traditional media still does have those regulatory bodies, whereas this is, you know, it's kind of a bit Wild West, even though it's been around for quite a while.
100%. Steve, you had something you... Sorry, Jim.
On with the conversation around your values and, you know, excluding others and they don't fit our mould. Just in the interest of advancing our conversation, not that we are this or not saying that dudes are this either, but how far do you go with that where you become a set? You know, like we'd only accept people that behave our way. Like Brian.
Yes. Yeah, I know. It's a bit like that, isn't it? And I guess luckily we're always finding people who fit in the mould and who are of equivalent talents to people who might be a dick or something like that. And it is weird. You can sense it, can't you, when somebody's a dick? But so far we've been completely lucky to do that in finding the right people. But I think it's good. We stick by it pretty tightly. Yeah.
How limiting is it to label people yet wanting others to take us for authenticity?
Yeah.
Because there's been a lot of name throwing, and I'm quite uncomfortable with the fact that to make ourselves the norm, we then throw label around.
Absolutely.
So to talk about what you were saying before, I think authenticity, it's what the society has done with the word, and that word has become something that probably wasn't.
Yeah.
So by looking what's the expectation about what it is to be authentic, we have become a lot of things that we're not. And often in conversation, it's interesting to say, well, I'm going to be authentic, or my own ego is taking over my authenticity. And therefore I'm becoming a lot of things that I wouldn't be.
Wouldn't be, yeah. I know it's a weird internal inauthenticity, perhaps, isn't it? Yeah. And we spoke about this before. Marketing, especially over the years, has done a wonderful job of destroying words and their meanings to fit. And, you know, a while back, love was a word which was like, oh no, marketing companies are jumping on the love bandwagon. We're just going to destroy all meaning of this. And, you know, and so we always joked about the word journey. It's like, oh, here we go, and authenticity, etc. That's a really valid and a great point, I think. And I think, too, a lot of schisms within people happen because they're not sure how they should or shouldn't react. And there's almost their social media persona, which we see a lot, versus their various other personas. I'm not well versed in psychology, but I wish I was a bit more, because I think you're on a really good point.
A lot of the work now will probably be, especially for agency, do the work on the people first. And then we'll be able to develop a brand which will stick and be so authentic in the true sense, so to speak, really close to who they are at the essence, versus what they believe they should be, and listening to all that internal voice and wherever they were born and what they believe is true, even talking about America and the guns, for example. They're being authentic, so is that really at the essence what they wish for their kids?
Yeah, it's great.
What was your name, sir?
Joris.
Lovely to meet you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's great.
Did anyone else have any questions? Yeah.
Can a bank be authentic?
Yeah, that's a great one. Actually, I do a bit of work for Greater Bank, actually, who are a customer-owned bank. So in theory, their profits all go back to their customers, community, etc. They don't have shareholders. Well, their shareholders are their customers, which is why it goes back. So, yeah, can they be a thing? I don't actually know. An interesting thing, and that Greater Bank did during COVID, when a lot of their community partners had no longer people allowed to visit them to play sports or whatever, and all this revenue was dropping for them. Greater Bank decided to actually reroute I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to say this, but we'll soon find out if lawyers knock on the door. They allocated some of their funds to help these organisations they wouldn't normally do. Plus, they used part of their online team to build a online portal where all these different groups could post things to reach their customers as well. And I just thought that was beautiful, and they didn't really want to market that. It was just, we need to do this to help our partners because that's their ethos and what they stood for. And that was actually really refreshing because in marketing, we'll promote all this. And then, no, you don't need to promote it. We'll
that's
do
what
our
we're doing.
thing. Yeah, we're just doing it. And I was like, oh, okay, that's really lovely and genuine.
And weird.
And weird. Yeah, and good weird.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. Whenever I see marketing from a major bank, I always go, the thing they're talking about, if we flip that, that's their problem. So you know, if Westpac are talking about we're here for you and we've been here for you forever, it's like, where are you investing your money then? Okay, or etc. So, but that's also partly my cynical side of things as well. Yeah, good question. And any big organisation too, at what point can you be authentic versus this is what we stand for as a brand, and can we, you know, Volvo did this thing where they said, right, our goal, our line in the sand is 2030, no one dies in a Volvo. That's it. That's our goal. That's all we're working towards. And I thought that was a pretty bold thing to say. And then everything you do from each level then becomes, okay, are we moving towards that goal in a way?
That's an incredible goal. I wonder how they measure that.
Deaths.
Sorry for my loud laugh.
No.
That's amazing.
Sorry.
I
had 2 seconds to get
technical
that
in the
out.
reads.
It's in their annual report, 0 deaths in our cars.
That's it. Or 3, sorry.
Yeah, but it does put a really clear line in the sand for what, you know, they're all working on that same hymn sheet, sorry.
Don't you be sorry. This is why I love it.
Not being sorry.
No, Christensen's tried to really go on for us. Thank you. Thanks for that. So, start a business, you won't die.
Yes, solid.
That's it, done.
Yeah. We like it.
Yeah.
Taking something from Volvo.
Yeah.
You were just saying before about like the banks and some of the larger organisations, but pretty much any public company that's run by shareholders.
Yes.
They're for the shareholders. They're only there to basically benefit the shareholders.
Exactly.
So the bottom line.
Yes.
So yeah, I guess that could extend to pretty much any public company.
It does,
Can
doesn't
they
it?
be authentic? Well, their number one goal, and it has to be according to their constitution, right?
Yeah.
My understanding is so, like, isn't that quite a dilemma in itself?
Absolutely, yeah.
But why do they feel the need to say they are? Can't they just be okay with not being authentic and just saying, look, we exist for our shareholders, this is who we are? Like, great. Just don't say you're all of these things and that you're being an authentic business. Anyway, I'll get on my ranty pants if I don't stop on that.
But it is a good point, and this is too where there's the growth of kind of ethical super and other stuff where will there potentially be a movement where shareholders will vote, or there'll be a percentage of people who are shareholders that will vote based on what companies stand for and do. And I mean, that's a new movement, but, you know, we're seeing a growth in it, so potentially. But you're absolutely right.
Ethical super organisations where people are choosing to get a lower return generally on their super.
Yes, because
in order to be aligned with the superannuation.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not often getting lower.
No,
Yes, that's right.
There's all the investment in the It's going full circle, but it hasn't been performing the same.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like interesting.
And a lot of this it's transparency too, isn't it? It's being for companies to have the guts to actually openly disclose what they're doing or what they're doing. And I think, you know, the beauty of authenticity, or as individuals now, and we're seeing in marketing, people want to connect with companies that share same values and same opinions, especially the younger generation more than any other generation. So that's kind of reassuring too, I think, because you're getting people who are voting with their headset as opposed to a deal. There's still a lot of brand research that shows that's not happening, brand loyalty, but there's certainly a growth in it, definitely.
Yeah. You sent on to me an interesting article that had a lot of
Oh, the Deloitte
one.
stuff, yeah.
I might share that with everyone here. I'll send the link out to everyone that attended, and I think you'll get some interesting info out of that.
Yeah, and I guess that was largely based on authenticity as a, it's a human persona, and as individuals, if someone feels authentic, it's all right to hang around them because you know where they stand at any point. So if a company can emulate the same, you feel like, we know what they're about. And that's where smaller companies, especially even larger ones, that will openly disclose mistakes and wins will gain a sense of authenticity about them because they're happy to share wins and losses, sorry everybody, we completely screwed up with this, or this amazing thing's happening. And it's brave to do that.
But that was really interesting, even with the election, how we had our now Prime Minister about that. What is the job, like the unemployment rate? And he's like, I don't know. It's like, oh, okay, cool. You don't know. That's okay. And then the leader of the Greens, how he was asked the same question and he just cracked it, but how he just went, just Google it. Like, I'm sick of the media doing this.
Just Google it.
It was that moment that I went, I'm reading his policy. Like, I want to know more about that dude.
Exactly.
Because it wasn't contrived. It was just very
true to himself.
splattered.
It is, the leadership thing's interesting, isn't it?
It is.
What's for Barack Obama with his rolled up sleeves, straight away he's just like, there's a man of action. There's no more suit over the top of it. Well, there was that for certain things, but whenever he visited somewhere,
it was down to...
which just is a signifier of I'm here, and doesn't have to do anything, but by rolling up the sleeves, there's the sense that he's doing
he's
that.
a doer.
That's the
You
picture.
see everyone rolling up their sleeves to fake authentic.
He's like, look, I've been doing it all day.
I'm busy.
Both
of it. Is there anything else anyone wants to share? Any questions for Jamie? Anything they'd like to add?
How do you reconcile authenticity with change? So I had views 10 years ago that I no longer hold. So in my business, we have views that we no longer hold. How do you see that?
Great. Oh no, that's good. Absolutely. And change is, embracing change is great, especially if that's doesn't have to be part of an authentic, part of a value, but that's awesome. So I think by allowing change, you're absolutely being 100% human, and to celebrate that too, to actually say, we're shifting and changing in our views or what we stand for, is wonderful. I think if you're asking, I would just say celebrate it completely and get it out there and let people know of your own shift.
Share that story about what shifted for you and why, and like how that changed. I'd be fascinated to know that.
I've been out of the square for 10 years, and we realise there's actually, with a lot of the newer staff, they don't have this longer story that we've got either. So it's actually really important that we remind our own staff of all the things that have happened and changed, and clients that we've had for 22 years since the company, 25 years since the company began, that we still have, and reminding them of what changes we've done for them and how they've changed as well. So good and great to just put in checks, isn't it? Is it time to change? Or I know there's an agency around town, and every 4 or 5 years they just rebrand their whole look. They'll just change because it's part of that person's DNA to go, we just have to change.
I'm not that anymore.
We're not that anymore. Just, it's not change for the sake of change, but it's the change to remind ourselves to refresh, which is interesting.
I like the idea of that, mindful refreshment. Steve, you had a...
In this era of alternative facts, thank you. We did an exercise in here, and you're most welcome to do it. When you're here, just walk from here all the way around back to here. And it's credit to my partner, who's an narrative therapist, in regards to messaging. She talks about thick and thin stories. And that's what we found with the dislocation of this time that we've been in. We had 2 staff we none of us saw for, months? 6 months? 7 months. We didn't see, we employed them. We never saw them as humans, apart from on a screen. Yeah, that's true. So we try to recognise that, and you can create thicker stories about stuff, because people arrive somewhere and go, that's the thin story, that's what it is. But the substance of where you've arrived and where you're at is sometimes it's worth telling that.
Yeah.
to take the effort to tell that. So the question about change, I think, as long as you explain why you've arrived at where you have, where you've been,
Yeah.
and dare I say, is that authentic? Is that a truer representation of why you were here and you've now arrived there? And a final observation I'll make, I'm a terribly sick fan of American politics, but it's fascinating. But I believe now there's a turn occurring with regards to Trump in Georgia, because the person he supported is not being supported, but the person that is against Trump has simply accepted his messaging and said, look, I accept who he is, he just appears to be angry at me, but these are my beliefs.
Yeah.
And you can, it's like the sweep that he has been on his authentic of who he is and what he represents in American Republican politics. I think someone's found a way to say, that's what he is, and I'm not disagreeing with him, he just appears to be a little bit angry, but this is what I believe in.
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting way.
And we don't dive deep into facts much anymore, or data, which is why fire and all those things can happen, because it's like, I'm just excited on the surface bubbles that are happening, and to remind people of the depth of what we've done is far, is great to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Please, Luke.
Yeah.
On change, I've found myself in a predicament where you're in the middle of change. A lot of people don't like that. So to be authentic about it, you're just upsetting everyone.
Yeah. This is great, Luke. Yeah, people don't like change at all. It scares them.
And people want change to happen a lot quicker than like to actually go through change properly. It takes time, especially when it's something so ingrained. And allow the room for that. Sorry, we're going off to to bring it back to authenticity. To be authentic in the middle of change is probably the hardest place to ever sit.
Absolutely, you're transitioning, right? Yeah.
And I've just found myself in that position, and in the end, everyone loses. I don't think anyone wins. So I think I don't know what I've got to say about that.
I know.
Yeah, I really resonate with that though, Luke. Like I had a pretty tough year, and it is that being authentic to yourself and your beliefs in a moment where everything's just like, it's rough. Like it is really hard. So hats off.
Yeah.
It's just, I think when you want people to be authentic, you also have to be, what's the word? There's a level of respect you've got to have, because I think most of us probably prefer people not to be authentic, because authenticity isn't always comfortable.
Yes, correct.
It's confronting. It can be grating. So I think if we're demanding authenticity of people, we also have to
do about vulnerability.
Like if you want people to be vulnerable, it's not going to be
comfortable.
It can be frustrating when there's a demand for authenticity.
It's like holding up a mirror. What you want from others, you've got to have the same expectations for yourself, and it is hard.
To allow space for that, like Unilever, for example, I used to, like, going back like 10, 15 years ago, like, Unilever are the worst. How can they have Lynx and how can they have Dove? They're like standing for polar opposites.
And
where was I going with that? What did you just say?
Hold up a mirror.
Hold up a mirror.
Oh, but they're actually on a journey of change.
Yep.
They're trying, like they know where they're wrong. It's just change is hard and there's big shit to turn around.
Yes,
It takes time, and I came to a point where I sort of saw them trying to turn the ship very slowly and badly. I'm okay with that. At least they're giving it a go, and
they're aware of it.
Hard,
They're
stuck in the canal.
Sideways in the canal.
Giving it a go, and I think just allowing the space for that. That sort of digressed. Sorry.
No, Luke, great.
Is the resistance you're getting to change from your organisation, is that resistance just to change in general, or resistance to the changes you're looking at making they're not agreeing with? Sort of thing?
How much time do we have?
We literally have 1 minute. Go for it. Let's go.
I don't know if I want to go there. I haven't been talked publicly about this.
As much as you're willing to.
One of my businesses in the past, me and my wife ran a magazine called White Magazine. It was a wedding magazine, and we were core to our wedding magazine was about relationships. We've never featured a same-sex wedding in our magazine, and that abruptly offended a large, I should say, small group of people, but they were very
intensely
about it.
Yeah.
And I've been brought up in a way to believe certain things that I don't necessarily agree with and I don't sit with, but that's just the core of who I was. And I'm like, it doesn't feel right. I don't know where I sit with it. Questioned it, researching, reading, talking, like that's a core, like in how you've been brought up. Change, and it doesn't happen quickly. And you have these people of all types yelling at you and demanding and shooting you down and cutting you off and tearing you off and making all these assumptions. And you're sitting here, I'm trying to work through that. I want to be loving to all people. I want to show that. And then you've got people on the other side of that battle and everyone's yelling at you. And
just want some time.
We're just like the most loving thing to do is just to lay it down because this is hurting too many people. And my journey is taking too long, and I'm not gonna, it's not just something I can dive into and be like, okay, I'll agree with you. It's like, no, I want to go through that journey. I want to understand it. I want to. It was a really hard time. It's
I remember.
Frustrating because it's like we wanted to be authentic and we tried to speak up. That got manipulated and it was
of
terrible.
course.
But anyway, different story.
But you did. You put that down and gave yourself space and time to continue your own journey with the topic.
No, we put it down. I haven't landed anywhere on the topic, to be honest. It's too hard.
It's too hard.
But I'm being authentic in that. And it's not like I've given up on it or I'm sitting on the fence and people hate that so much. And I get why they also hate it as well. But
because people want to know what you stand for.
Yes.
They can judge you.
No, it is.
you want to love you.
Yeah.
It's like, just love me. It's okay. We're just questioning
Yeah. And that's part of
pressure for people to decide that haven't actually processed it or gone through it. And I like what you were saying before about like writing people off, employing them. I get that as well. Like there's some people that you just
No, dickhead.
But there's a part of me as well. It's like I'm probably that person to someone else.
we all we all are. We're all dickheads to somebody else, and we're all lovers to someone else. That's all right.
I think to be less like I can't do that because I've been on the receiving end of it, and I know who I am, and to be authentic to myself, I know I'm not that person they think I am.
Yeah.
So I do that for other people as well to give them the space.
No, thanks, Luke.
Just talking
it's great.
about change and being authentic. It's very hard.
It
and
is.
I think if we demand or want that of people, we need to also give the space for it.
Absolutely.
And especially in any leadership position, that's where people don't like betweens in leadership positions. They need to know yes or yes, and we see it constantly when people are crucified because they're not. People just aren't seeing action or a resolute decision.
Quickly enough.
Hard. Yeah, quickly enough.
It's
I
instantaneous.
feel sorry for politicians.
Oh,
They're in that position all the time, right?
yeah, constantly. Yeah.
Steve, you had one last question.
Oh, sorry, I'll make it you. Last question. What's the most authentic, or what is a good example of an authentic campaign that comes to mind for you?
I'll say a different one. For me, it was when Miley Cyrus twerked in 2013 at the MTV Awards. Here's a woman who was Hannah Montana. She knew she could not survive as that person anymore. She'd grown. She needed to be something else and couldn't drag it on. And so in one act, in one of the biggest television platforms, she's done this outrageous act, completely owned the act, and become this full adult performer within the space of a song. To me, that was the greatest rebrand ever of an individual. And then Wrecking Ball came out, as well the same year, just to completely roll that all together or before. So it was, to me, that was a phenomenal flip of authenticity and change where she was like, and it's amazing, there's all these stories about how she had to chat with Dolly Parton for ages. She was torn, but she knew she had to do it. And it wasn't even a campaign really, it was just very clever execution of a pile of stuff. But I thought that was a brilliant, absolute brilliant rebrand, and something being done instantly. Yeah, and her going, this is what I want to be now, and this is the type of stuff I want to do. So I thought, you know, kudos to her for doing that. And she knew she'd just copped flack from everywhere, but she knew she had to literally kill her darling. You know, she had to kill Hannah in one swell move. Yeah.
Or it would drag.
The overhang of achy, breaky heart.
Yeah, that's
For everybody.
For everybody. Yeah. There's lots of great, you know, small SMEs on social media that have done some awesome, authentic stuff, and, you know, chats and transparency about what they're doing and whatnot. So yeah, there's lots of examples of that, of small companies. I think.
We had Chapman during the COVID pandemic talked to us early on about this whole, how are people going to behave, you know, in terms of branding and marketing. I thought a really good insight he shared with us is that people will remember how you behaved at this time.
Yes.
They will not forget how you behaved if you took advantage, or if you changed and to take advantage of a situation from who you were.
Yes.
I thought that was a really good.
Are you talking about during COVID itself?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, the eyes were watching. Yeah. Marty said it was the same. Yep.
Yeah.
Isn't it kind of life though? Like when you're facing your biggest challenges, that's when your true self really comes out.
Yes.
Like I know when I've had my health problems in the past, like who my real friends are.
Yes.
The friends that are sort of there for me.
Completely.
Like when I'm not my best self.
Yeah.
Like as well. So I think that.
Yeah, completely it is. It's the biggest periods of growth, isn't it? A friend always says, lean into the storm, don't shy away from it. And I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that finishes up our conversation tonight on authenticity. So what we hope from this conversation is that you just keep thinking about what this word means to you and its position in your life and in your business. And that is obviously very much up to you. If you've got any extra thoughts or just want to make comments, just reach out to us. Come in and chat to us. Jump on our social media, of course, and chat there. And yeah, we'd love to hear more from you. So the next episode in this series is ethics, as I mentioned. And we're going to have a building scenario when we have 4 guests, maybe 6, depending on how many we can fit. And we can draw that line in the sand for people and they can say, I will not take this job and why. So more on that later, but it's quite a fun thing to be a part of. Can be a little bit emotional, actually.
Yeah, I remember those. They're great.
So thank you so much for being here tonight. It's at this point we usually do the reciprocity circle, but I fear we've run out of time, so we may change this a little bit. Instead of how that usually looks is everyone writes on a sticky note something that they need or want and sticks it up on the wall. And then other people go and have a look, and if they can provide support or assistance or service in that area, they just go and introduce themselves. But what we'd like to do, just because we've got 15 minutes left, is just go and have a chat to someone you don't know. Just find out what their thoughts are on the topic and just see how you can genuinely support them, dare I say, in an authentic way. Yes.
Anti-networking.
It is. This is very much networking for people that hate networking.
Yeah.
Just no sales. No sales.
Yeah. Don't be a dick.
Yeah, don't be a dick.
Just have a chat. Yeah.
Absolutely. So there's lots of food. Go and have some nibbles, grab some wine, beer, soft drink, anything you like. And thank you for coming along.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.